Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. Now, after the release of Rogue One, I felt it was appropriate to start a new Star Wars series on my channel, and today we're going to be focusing on how could Star Wars Rebels have been improved. As if you didn't know, the mid-season trailer for Star Wars Rebels Season 3 was just released a few days ago now, and it was received mostly positively. However, there were a few negative Nancy's, and I decided to make a few videos on how Star Wars Rebels is worse than Star Wars The Clone Wars and how it's better, etc, how it could be improved. And if you didn't know, I am starting a new review series of every single Star Wars Rebels Season 3 episode that is going to be released, starting on the 17th, I believe. But let's focus on the video. So how could Star Wars Rebels be improved? Let's find out. So on my notepad in front of me, I've written down 5 points, excuse me, and I thought I would cover every single point individually, starting with a brief summary, and also then I'll be summarizing at the end of the video in total. All of these points were just made in an unordered order, so it's not from most important to least important, or least important to most important. But let's begin with the first point. Number 1 would be to remove Maul, as at this point I feel as though he's just becoming a joke, and I feel as though his time is done, and Ezra's relationship with him makes no sense as he has removed Kanan's sight, and so it really makes no sense how Ezra would still be having conflicting emotions for Maul in many ways. Think about if someone took the sight of your troubled father, and you decided one minute you wanted to kill him, the next minute you wanted to sit down and have a cup of tea with him. No matter how much you hated your father, I doubt you would be best buddies with the man who almost killed him. And so I feel as though Maul's time has ended and he needs to be killed off. Luckily, in the mid-season trailer, it appears as though Disney agrees, and so he is being killed off, hopefully. Now, number 2, there was a lot of focus in Season 2 and even Season 1 of the rest of the Ghost crew. However, with Season 3, I feel as though there hasn't been much focus on the rest of the crew, and I feel like there's been too much of a focus on Kanan and Ezra when there's obviously other characters. And I really find Ezra to not be a likable character in many ways, and I feel as though there could be more focus on the actual crew and not just Ezra. Now, this third point relates to Dave Filoni making a point that Star Wars Rebels will not be going on forever, whether it has less seasons than Star Wars The Clone Wars, or whether it actually lasts to the same amount of time. However, Star Wars Rebels is not going to be going on for years and years and years. And I know that they still have to stick within the restraints of it being technically a child's show. However, I feel as though the series could become a little bit darker, a little bit more grim, because obviously the Empire is closing in, and the crew will be eventually eliminated. As right now, I feel like everyone has too much plot armor, that it's too light-hearted, especially considering the Empire is closing in, and eventually they're going to be conquering the rebellion, or at least that particular crew, and I just feel as though they could be a little bit more dark about the whole crusade against the Empire. Now, this next point actually relates to my previous point, and I feel as though they could remove the plot armor of the main characters by killing off at least one of them. Now, the reason I would say this is that I feel like this would add tension to the series between the characters, because some characters may blame another character, or vice versa. And I feel like right now I'm not taking the show seriously, because I just feel like everybody is invincible, and if they took one guy out, I feel like it would make me take the show a little bit more seriously. Now, my next point is quite interesting, because I feel like Ezra could be able to turn to the dark side, as right now he's sort of balancing between light and dark, and if he was to turn fully to the dark side, I feel like this would add a lot of tension to the series, and ruin a lot of relationships, and it would sort of make things a lot darker, and it sort of relates to the crew eventually falling apart. Now, my final point is finally quite light-hearted, and I feel as though they could add more planets in the series. I feel like they could travel to more planets and adventure to more planets. Obviously, it's all well and good to visit previous planets, and I love the throwbacks to Dathomir and the Night Sisters. However, I feel like if they were to add a few more story arcs and add a few more planets, it would allow to add a little bit more Star Wars lore to the canon and allow us to nerd out on a few more points. So, ladies and gentlemen, to summarize, I just wanted to say that I feel like Star Wars Rebels is a decent show. It's not as good as Star Wars The Clone Wars. However, there is a few ways in which it is better than Star Wars The Clone Wars, and I'll be making a video on that. Now, the reason I say this is that I feel like Star Wars Rebels needs to be a darker series. It needs to go darker. Obviously, they're fighting against an enemy that outnumbers them 10-1, and I feel as though they should be a little bit more desperate and not as happy and go-lucky as they really are. So if they were to add some tension to the series, make it a little bit darker, add some more conflicting relationships aside from the very weak relationship of Ezra and Maul. I feel as though this would interest me a lot more in this series. Nevertheless, I will be making reviews on every single episode that is to come, and I'll try to remain as unbiased as possible. I do apologise if sometimes the reviews may be out like a day or two later than every other review. However, I feel like I want to get to know the episode properly and not just make it after my first viewing. So ladies and gentlemen, those are my 6 points as to why Star Wars Rebels, or how Star Wars Rebels could be improved, and I feel like the show has some potential and it could be improved in just a few ways. But guys, if you did enjoy the video, don't forget that the like button is down there, as is the subscribe button, so if you want to check out more of my Star Wars content, or even some of my gaming content which I've just been uploading lately, be sure to hit that subscribe button. But nevertheless, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys had an awesome day today. I had quite a good day myself. It's a bloody stinker over here in Australia right now. We're talking like 35 degrees, I believe. So I've sort of had to turn my fan off to try and reduce the noise of the recording. So thank me later, because it really was ridiculously loud when I last recorded this. But guys, hopefully you had an awesome day, and I'll see you later.